You guys are working on those last few problems there. Any questions there? Check your answers. Are there any ones you want me to go over individually with you?
You go for number 18.
Okay, number 18. Okay, guys. So number 18, it says find sine and cosine if cotangent is 3/7 and secant is less than 0. So we see that cotangent is positive. So let me put this on. I'll work this out on the sheet here. Okay, so cotangent is 3/7. So we can, if cotangent is positive, then we know that we're looking for location where tangent is positive and secant is negative. And so, well, if secant is negative, we know that we're dealing with cosine, right? Cosine being negative. So, in which quadrant will both tangent be positive and cosine be negative? Okay, it's gonna be a third quadrant, right? Only tangent is positive, so this makes sense that tangent is positive and cosine is negative. So we know we're dealing with the third quadrant. So we're going to draw our triangle in the third quadrant. Tangent is adjacent over opposite. So we know that 3 and 7 will go here. But we have to remember that we're dealing with the third quadrant. So our x and y values are both negative in the third quadrant. So I got to go -3, 3 to the left, 7 down. So I know that negatives are associated with those values. Okay, the rest, I need to find this missing side. Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Solve for c, I get square root of 58. And once I'm at square root of 58, now I'm ready to find sine and cosine. So sine is just opposite over hypotenuse. I can rationalize the denominator, -7 root 58 over 58. And then cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. Rationalize the denominator, -3 root 58 over 58. Okay, does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Anything else on this page? All right, let me just go over the calendar real quick. So today we're going to basically prepare and get ready for the quiz tomorrow. So I'll go over all the problems that you're going to be expected to see on the quiz tomorrow. And actually just going to be pulling those from 1.19. So 1.19 is a test review, but really that first page is what your quiz is going to cover. So we'll go over everything that you can expect to see on the quiz. Tomorrow quiz is no calculator. Okay. For any of you who have fourth lunch, I'm going to do a fourth period health session. Okay, I'm just going to pick problems that are, basically I'm just going to pick problems that are similar to that test review. So for those of you who have fourth, you can come in for extra help session. Now, it seems like the test on Wednesday is coming up really soon. Not a whole lot of gap between the quiz and the test. So let me just say this, that your test is just a combination of topics from the quiz you see tomorrow and the first quiz that you guys got back. So we're just going to merge the topics before unit circle and after unit circle together. So we're really not going to cover anything new after today. So you will take the quiz on Friday. I'll hand back the quiz to you on Tuesday. We'll go over that. We'll go over the first quiz as well. and you're going to know what exactly to expect. And then on the quiz, on the test on Wednesday, the first part will be non-calculator. You'll finish that part, turn that in, and once you turn that in, I'll give you the calculator portion, and you can bring out your calculator for that. Okay. Okay. Any questions with the calendar? All right, let's go to page 40. Okay. Oh, and also, by the way, when you take your quiz tomorrow, it'll be just one page, about 10 problems on one page. The back page is going to be a blank unit circle. So you can use that to fill that out and use that as a reference when you take your quiz tomorrow. Okay. I'll also include a blank unit circle on the non-calculator portion of your test on Wednesday. Okay. Well, maybe I'll just give you a separate sheet so that you can have it for both the calculator and the non-calculator section. Okay, so you guys can have your unit circle out. That way we can just use that as reference to help us find these values quickly. Okay, so it says evaluate each without using a calculator. Okay, and it's okay. We have our unit circle to help us with this. So sine is equal to root 3 over 2. All right. First thing is we want to identify which quadrant are we dealing with between pi over 2 and pi. Second, okay, second quadrant. So you're just going to look at second quadrant. You know that sine is basically your y value. So where is sine going to be root 3 over 2 in the second quadrant? But we want to give it in radians. Yeah. So we go to our unit circle, second quadrant, root 3 over 2 as the y value. 120 degrees is fine, but we want to represent it with the units that's provided here, so radians, 2 pi over 3. Okay. All right, number 2. All right, let's locate our quadrant between pi and 3 pi over 2. Which quadrant is that?
The third.
Third quadrant, good. So third quadrant, you know cosine is basically your x value. So which measure is cosine going to be negative root 2 over 2? Yeah, third quadrant. X value, negative root 2 over 2. Yeah. Okay. Try number 3 and 4. We'll go over those. Okay, so between pi and 3 pi over 2, we know again we're dealing with the third quadrant. Remember, tangent is y over x. So we have to find a combination of y over x that will produce square root of 3 in the third quadrant. So what you guys get?
I think it was 7 pi.
Let's see, tangent equals root 3 in the third quadrant. Yeah, So you see that, yeah, in order for me to get that root 3, I know it's got to be one of these two, but I want y over x, so the only way I'm going to get square root of 3 is if I divided these two, right? I can cover up the 2 and just divide the numerator, so negative root 3 over negative 1 will give me a positive root 3.
I did the wrong one.
Okay. Oh, okay. So x equals 4 pi over 3. Any questions there? Okay, let me know if something doesn't make sense. I want to help you make sure everything is everything makes sense. Okay, number 4. Between 0 and pi, so we know that's more than one quadrant, right? That's first and second quadrant. Okay, cotangent is undefined. All right, you know that you're only going to get undefined if there's a 0 involved, right? A 0 in the denominator. You know that cotangent is x over y. So where could we potentially get undefined if we divided x divided by y? Okay, well, see here, x over y would be 0 over 1, and that's okay, right? That's 0.
Pi.
Okay, pi or 0. Yeah, so negative 1 over 0 is undefined. 1 over 0 is also undefined. We include 0 and pi because those are part of our domain. So we're going from 0 all the way to pi with 0 and pi being included. So we have two solutions there. Okay, anybody having trouble identifying those? Right, right. Yeah, so tangent is y over x, and then cotangent is x over y. So just have to continue practicing with that. Okay, now 5 and 6 is a little bit different because we have to deal with everything in terms of negatives. So I'm gonna help us walk us through this. Okay. So first thing is we got to go counterclockwise to get to our quadrant here. So first up is, where's negative pi? Same place as pi, right? It's just I'm going in the opposite direction, but I'm going halfway either way. Okay, so I'm starting at negative pi. Where's negative pi over 2? Yeah, it's the negative 270, right? So what's between negative pi and negative pi over 2? Third quadrant, right? So we know we're dealing with the third quadrant, okay? Now, cosecant equals negative 2. Maybe it's harder to think in terms of cosecant. What's a trig function that we can use to make it easier for us to interpret? Cosecant equals negative 2 is the same thing as what? Sine equal to negative 1/2. Okay, so that's easier, right? Sine equals negative 1/2. Where is sine equal to negative 1/2 in the third quadrant? Sine. Yeah, sine is the y value, right? So we got to look here. So it's negative 1/2. So sorry, 7 pi over 6. Right? Now, is 7 pi over 6 in the correct? Okay, we know it's third quadrant, but is this going to match up between negative pi and negative pi over 2? Doesn't quite fit, right? So if something doesn't fit, what can we do to find a coterminal angle that will land? Yeah, either we add or subtract 2 pi or 360. But in this case, we want to go in the negative direction, so we're going to subtract 2 pi. Okay. So the way that we want to subtract 2 pi without a calculator is you want to match your denominator. So let's just subtract 6 in the denominator, 12 over 6, same thing as 2. So x equals what? Yeah, negative 5 pi over 6. So my strategy is find the angle like you normally would, and then check with your interval. If it doesn't fit the interval, then you can always adjust, add or subtract 360 or 2 pi until you get it into that range. Okay, any questions with 5? Right, so we can't say 2 pi because it's not part of our domain. Right, so it's a good question though. We always want to go back and look at our domain. Good. All right, number 6, if you guys try this one, see if you're able to work your way through the same way that we did number 5. Right. Try to figure out which quadrant you're dealing with. Locate that quadrant. Find that angle. That angle may not be in the proper interval, so you can make that adjustment to get it into a proper interval. And we need to practice doing this without a calculator as well. I was just recording, so. Okay. Negative 3 pi over 2 to negative pi. All right, where's negative pi? Where's negative 3 pi over 2? All right, I gotta move 3 quadrants over, right? So this is pi over 2, that's another pi over 2, that's another pi over 2. So it's all the way over here. Okay, what's between these two here? We're dealing with the second quadrant, right? Second quadrant. Okay, so we know which quadrant we're dealing with. Secant is equal to negative 2 root 3 over 3. We know secant is basically flipping the cosine around. Sorry, flipping the x value around. We know the x value is related to the to cosine. So, which x value, if I were to take the reciprocal, if I were to flip, am I going to be able to get to this value? Yeah, it's going to be this, right? If I flip that or flip that, I'm not going to get a 3 to show up. But if I flip negative root 3 over 2 to 2 over root 3 and rationalize the denominator, all right, there's my match. Okay, are you guys okay with that? Secant is the reciprocal of cosine. This is my cosine, and if I flip this, I'll be able to get to that.
Should be 5 pi.
Good. That's our initial location, but we may need to make some adjustments. Right? 5 pi over 6 is the second quadrant. That's fine, but they want it as a negative measure. So what should we do? Yep. Subtract 2 pi, and again, easiest way to do this without a calculator is match your denominator and subtract using common denominators. Yes.
Why do we need to change it to negative?
Because the interval that we have to provide our answer is between negative 3 pi over 2 and negative pi. Because if we say 5 pi over 6, you're right, you're in the second quadrant, but you're not in the interval that they're asking for. So we have to just either add or subtract 2 pi until we get our measure nicely between our interval. Okay, so 5 minus 12 is negative 7. Okay, any questions? Okay, 7 through 12, we're still going to rely on our unit circle to help us through. But it says give 2 solutions. So now we have 2 solutions based off of our ratio. Okay, so sine of x equals negative 1/2. You want to present your answer in terms of degrees. Where is sine going to be negative? Which quadrants? Third and fourth, right? So we know we're looking for third and fourth quadrant. All right. So where is sine equal to negative 1/2? Yeah, okay, but let's give it in degrees here. 210, okay? So 210 degrees. All right. We also need to find it in the fourth quadrant. So also what? 330. No, -1/2. All right. Questions so far? Okay, so let's do 8 as well, and then I'll have you guys try to finish off 9 through 12. Okay, cotangent is equal to -1. Cotangents, I can think in terms of tangents. Where is tangent going to be negative? Second and fourth, right? We know tangent is positive, so cotangent is also positive in the third quadrant. So second and fourth. So cotangent being -1, that's the same thing as tangent being -1, right? If I were to flip that, I will still get -1. Okay. Tangent and cotangent is x over y. All right, second quadrant. Where is cotangent going to be -1 in the second quadrant? Yeah, degree measure. 135, right? Okay, so if you look, these are the exact same values. I can cover up the y value, the denominator if I like. -√2 over √2 will just cancel out to be just -1. Also, fourth quadrant. Yep, 315. √2 over -√2 gives me -1. Okay, give you guys a moment to see if you're able to figure out 9 through 12. I want to just give you a hint here. For 9 and 11, you're going to get 3 measures. So keep that in mind. Okay, let's try 9 through 12. Okay, and just use your unit circle. Okay, don't use your calculator. Okay, 1 second. Okay. So which quadrant? So, really the cosine. Just looking at what that's the one. The secant is just a flip version of that. Which one is like the best case where we can work? If I flip x, I'm going to get something that has to do here. If I do it, I should have the original graph. But make sure you divide it. Okay, check your answers. So let me go over number 10 real quick. Secant is negative between 0 and 2 pi. You know secant is related to cosine. Cosine is only going to be negative in the second and third quadrant. So you know you're looking at second and third quadrant. You know secant is just the reciprocal of the x value, so we only care about the x value, right? So we're looking at the x value here, and we're deciding, okay, which of these x values, if I were to take the reciprocal, I'm going to be able to get to root 2, right? I know it's not going to be 1/2. I know it can't be root 3 over 2 because the 3 should show up. But if I flip that into 2 over root 2, things will clean up and cancel out in a way where it's going to match that. So that's how we can figure out our target. So we want 3 pi over 4, and then we also want third quadrant, so we also want 5 pi over 4. Okay. Any other ones you want me to go over between 9 through 12? Yes.
Okay.
Number 9? Okay. So number 9, tangent is equal to 0. So the only way we're getting a 0 is if it's 0 over 1. Right? Oh, sorry. Tangent is 0. So we got to think in terms of y over x, right? Y over x. So if I go to my quadrant order pairs, I want a 0 over 1 from y over x. So the only way I'm going to get y over x can't be pi over 2, can't be 3 pi over 2, right? Here I'll get negative 1 over 0. Here I'll get 1 over 0. That doesn't make any sense. I want 0 over 1 or 0 over negative 1. So that's 0 and 180. But we also include 360 because 360 is part of our domain. So that's why we're listing 0, 180, and 360, because the domain is telling us that we got to stretch all the way to 360. Okay, good. Any other questions? Okay, I'm going to save the bottom for later if we have. It's not going to be on the quiz, so I'll probably save it for the test review. Okay, so let's do page 41, because even though it says review worksheet, well, yeah, so basically this first page is going to be what your quiz is going to look like tomorrow in terms of the topics covered. So go to page 40. One second.